to offer these topics also through our courses. I am Minakshi Kumar, Head of Academics here at Indian Institute of Remote Sensing, Indian Space Research Organization, Department of Space, Government of India. And here in this course on basics of remote sensing, GIS, GNSS, a module on remote sensing and image processing, we are first starting the lecture on the digital image processing on basic concept. So in this we expect to cover the basic topics on image. What is an image? What is a digital image image processing, and its two components, that is pre-processing, radiometric errors and their removal, geometric errors and their removal. So this is what we are going to see in this brief session and overview. So we will start with first, what is an image? What is your perception of the image? Like right now, what you are looking at is an image. You are seeing as is my image. You are seeing the image of the slide that is being presented. So image is a pictorial representation of an object or a scene or even a phenomena. And why we are talking about images? Because we know this famous Chinese adage that a picture is worth 1,000 words. We know that whenever we want to convey some information about any object, instead of describing it in so many words, it is easier to just give a picture and the meaning is conveyed. 90% of the meaning is almost conveyed through those pictures. So similar thing goes about our remotely sensed data. Nowadays everybody is using Google Earth, these maps for navigating from one place to another with satellite images in the background. So the images are conveying so much more information than physically describing the maps. So we have already talked about what is an image. An image is a pictorial representation of an object, a scene or a phenomenon. Now there are two forms of images, analog images and a digital. Analog, as the word suggests, it's a continuously varying quantity, like for example intensity, color. So here you can, if you see this black and white photograph, it is a continuously varying quantity, tone, intensity, right? A color is represented here. So that is continuously varying quantities, analog image. In contrast to analog images, a digital image is composed of tiny equal areas called as picture elements or pixels, and they're arranged in a matrix form in rows and columns. Now with each pixel is associated a number which is called as brightness number or brightness value or gray level or simply a DN, that is a digital number. Now this number is very important. It is a record of radiant energy in discrete form. It is a record of variation in radiant energy in discrete. Now if we are talking about optical remote sensing, this is reflected energy, right? If we are talking about thermal remote sensing, it is the emitted energy. If you are talking about the microwave remote sensing, this number is the backscattered energy. So this session will be mainly concentrated on the reflected values, reflectance values in an optical earth observation, optical data for land applications mainly. So here in this number also, and like in the previous slide I showed you intensities. The photograph of the girl, the hair were black. So objects reflecting less energy are darker. Objects reflecting more energy are brighter. That is what you can see right now also. Like if you're looking at my picture, the hairs are dark and the dress is white. So that means the objects which are reflecting more energy are brighter. Objects reflecting less energy are darker. In a digital image, they will have smaller number and higher number depending upon the reflection. Now in a satellite image, this range of DN values it's dependent upon the radiometric resolution of the sensor. So radiometric resolution, it varies from 6 bits to 11 bits to 12 bits and so on, depending upon different type of satellite sensor. So if the satellite is an 8-bit has 8-bit, the sensor has 8-bit radiometric resolution, the range of values will be between 0 to 250. 0 will be objects which do not reflect any energy. 255 will be for the object which reflects total energy. And all the other objects will be having reflectance in between these two values. Now, remotely sensed data is multispectral in nature. The previous example that we have seen, it is a single band hypothetical data, whereas a remotely sensed data is multispectral in nature. That means data of the same area is captured in many different spectral ranges. Right? So, like for example, here we are showing the 4-band data here. Band 1, its spectral range is mentioned. Band 2, its spectral range is mentioned. Band 3 and band 4. So, these are digital images. So, you can see the numbers. But when we display them on the monitor, it is the continuous representation. It is the intensity which is being reflected. So, as it is obvious, the single band data which when we are displaying, it is grayscale. It is in gray shade. The color can only be generated when we combine 3 different layers onto the R, G and B of the monitor, onto the red, green and blue color gun of the monitor. For example, if data is captured in the blue region of the spectrum, in the green region of the spectrum and in the red region of the spectrum, and it is displayed on the red, green and blue, then the composite which turns out is near true color, that is the natural color composite which we see as we go out. But when we cover the ranges which are not visible to our eye, like for example the infrared ranges here, so when you combine any infrared layer with, even if with the visible layers, it is a false color composite. In remotely sensed imageries, there is a standard FCC false color composite, which is a combination of band 4 of infrared, band 3 that is red and band 2 which is green. So this composite, which is called a standard false color composite, a standard interpretation key has been developed, which you must have seen in the spectral signature class. Right? So this is the standard false color composite combining 4, 3 and 2 in R, G and B of the. Then coming to what is digital image processing. Digital image processing can be defined as the computer processing of digital values contained in an image for purpose of, now there are 3 major reasons. Image correction, that is removal of all kind of errors. Image enhancement and information extract. 3 main reasons why we do image processing or manipulation of satellite image. This is done with the digital image processing system. Any system is made up of a computer hardware and a dedicated image processing software. The computer hardware can be any simple personal computer, desktop computer or even a laptop, which is sufficient nowadays with the configurations, and a dedicated image processing software which can analyze my Earth observation digital data. Right? And again, as I mentioned in the definition, we are doing it for 3 main reasons: removal of errors, enhancement and feature extraction. So that means my dedicated image processing software should provide me these 3 basic functionalities. That means removal of errors, compensating for data errors. This is called as image pre-process. Then image enhancement, which is changing the visual appearance of the image. And third one is the most important one, extracting useful information from the satellite images. That means using decision making capabilities of computers and the software to automatically categorize all pixels in an image based upon their signature. Then the major image processing systems, that means the softwares, there are large number of softwares. Few I have listed here. The few are listed here. The commercial softwares are ADAS Imagine, Envy, Idrisi, ER Mapper, PCI Geomatica, IGS, and so on. The few open source softwares I have listed here are Ilvis, Integrated Land and Water Information System, Optics, GRASS, OSIM, Multispec, and nowadays QGIS is becoming very popular, a free and open source geographic information system with image processing capability. There are many plugins, there are many add-ons which can be used for image processing in a QGIS environment. Plus, those of you who are programmers, who are from computer science backgrounds, you don't have any limitation. You can use any programming language and you can write your own codes. Python becoming more popular nowadays for image processing, but in the older times, Java as well as C, all also were also very popular for image processing. Now let's come to our topic, that is we want to see our first topic of that the software should provide us, which is basically pre-processing capabilities, that is removing of all kind of errors, radiometric and geometric, and this is termed as pre-processing. So we will start pre-processing. Now why should we do pre-processing? Because the remote sensing systems, by remote sensing systems what I mean, a combination of satellite and sensor. Satellites are orbiting around the earth and there are sensors on board the satellite. So a combination of them, that is remote sensing systems, may not function perfectly all the time. Of course, they are calibrated before being sent on board, and there are onboard correction methods also if there is any miscalibration or out of calibration. Right? So remote sensing systems, the combination of sensors and satellites, may not function perfectly all the time. Secondly is, we are trying to capture the Earth's either atmosphere or land or water, right, by these systems, by this combination of satellites and sensors. With this Earth atmosphere, land and all also very complex things, right? So when you are trying to record them by some sensing device, and sensing device has constraints like spatial resolution, spectral resolution, temporal and radiometric resolution, the errors may creep into the data acquisition system, and the data which has been captured with these errors, right, it degrades the quality of your data. So this data has to be corrected. So what kind of errors can come into these images? They are radiometric and geometric errors. What are those? Let's see. We'll discuss them in the next few slides. So this combinedly removing the radiometric and geometric errors is termed as pre-processing, because information extraction being the most important step, these are done prior to pager information extraction. That is why we term as image pre-processing. So let's see what is radiometric and what is geometric error. So first, coming to radiometric errors. Now radiometric errors means the radiometry of the image is distorted. Radiometry means we have seen that the DN numbers, they are depending upon the radiometric resolution. That means the difference in the brightness values, the quantization level, right? It is the radiometry, right? So if the DN value is just, in simple words, if I say, if the DN value of a particular location is distorted, it is not optimum, it is a radiometric error. And why is it caused? It is caused by the detectors which are there on board those sensors. It is caused by the detector imbalance. And the second reason is there is an atmosphere. In remote sensing, you must have been told that the radiation travels through the atmosphere twice. Once on its journey from the sun to the earth, and then from earth back to the sensor. In twice it travels through the atmosphere. So there are two reasons for radiometric distortion, that is detector imbalance and atmospheric deficiency. So radiometric corrections, they are also called as cosmetic corrections, and they are done to improve the visual appearance of the image. Now the most common radiometric errors which we have seen in satellite images are periodic line dropouts or column dropouts. Then line or column striping. What is the difference between the two? We will see. Then there are random bad pixels. And then the way we have periodic line and column dropouts, we also have partial dropout. And then the last one is atmospheric errors. These are the common radiometric errors. Now let's see them one by one and their correction. So line dropout is if a detector fails to function. If it fails to function, it does not capture any information for that line. Okay? So that means there is no spectral information. That means a value of 0. So this bad line, it can happen in the line, it can happen in the column. So the bad line on or column dropout is a line having no values or a line having brightness value of 0. This can be periodic, this can be non-periodic, and it can be partial line dropouts. You must have been told about two types of scanning mechanisms in remote sensing, the whisk broom and the push broom. The whisk broom and the push broom. So think over it, in which scanning mechanism will it be line dropout and in which scanning mechanism it will be column drop. This is, think it over and try to find out the answer. Now if there is a detector has failed, it has not captured any data, that means value is 0. How do I get it? So if the detector has not captured any value, there is no way to get it back. We can only substitute it by some other ancillary information, right? So first and foremost, and more important thing is how to see where is the bad line. Where is the bad line? To find a bad line, we have to find the average of each line. If the average is 0 or near 0, that means it's a bad line. So once you have located a bad line, what are the methods to correct it? As I said, if something is not recorded, you cannot get it, right? We can do some substitute methods, like I can replace it by a line preceding it or a line succeeding it. A line which has been captured just before it or a line which has been captured just after it. Right? So that replacement. So replacement is the key, that is you replace the zeros with either the previous or the next line or average of the two. Right? Average of the two. Now since the multispectral data, it is a multispectral data, you can also replace this line with a highly correlated band. So correction for missing line and column is the mostly replacement. Replacing by preceding or succeeding or average or most correlated band. That is correction for missing line. Now in contrast to line dropout, what is line striping? If you see the picture, this is also periodic picture. In the previous line dropout, this line is complete 0. That means no value was recorded. Now in line striping, the response of some of the detectors, it shifts towards a higher side or it shifts towards a lower side, causing the banding pattern. That means if the response is very high, you will see periodic white lines, right? So banding is also a cosmetic defect and you cannot interpret objects clearly. So here you can see horizontal striping and vertical striping. And the correction mechanism is that because there is each detector it is giving either a higher response or a lower response. That means its gain has gone out of the calibration, its offset has gone out of the calibration. So we can change the gain and offset of each sensor to correct this, right? So to correct the line striping, we take a reference detector. We take a reference detector for which the response is optimum, and we take the faulty detector. The reference detector is your expected output, and the one which is striping is your input, right? And then you develop a linear sensor model, and you get the gain and offset, calculate the gain and offset for the faulty detector, and replace the and multiply those with gain and offset to get the correct output value. That is the correction for line striping. Now coming to atmospherically induced errors. Atmosphere plays a lot of role in your imageries. Right? It plays, like for example, it has effect of haze, skylight, and sun angle. Now, what is haze? As you read here, scattered light which reaches the sensor from the atmosphere. Scattered light. Let's see the picture. So, my Earth, the radiation, it travels from the sun to the earth, and then it is expected to go back to the sensor which is here. Now, if the light is scattered here, if the light is scattered in the atmosphere, it before reaching the earth, it will also go and reach the sensor. Okay? So, this is scattered light, and it will have an effect of adding itself to the DN value which was being reflected, reducing the contrast. So this is the first error, haze. Then this is the skylight. Skylight is your scattered light which also reaches the sensor, but after being reflected from the earth's surface. Difference between the haze and skylight, if you see, haze is the scattered light which reaches the sensor from the atmosphere. The atmospheric particles scatter it and it reaches the sensor. The skylight is the scattered light reaches the sensor, but first it goes to the earth's surface. From the earth's surface it gets reflected and then gets scattered and then reaches the sensor field of view. Then sun angle. Now sun angle, it is the basically the you can say seasonal effect of the sun, right? Changing the illumination or conditions of the earth, right? So time and seasonal effect which changes the path of the radiation also. So this is also a multiplicative effect. So here is a simple picture which is showing all this, that we know the radiation coming from sun, it's expected to reach the target pixel for which we want the reflectance, and it should reach the sensor. But what is actually reaching the sensor is also the component which gets scattered in the atmosphere, and the light which gets which after being reflected gets scattered, and the effect from the neighboring pixels. So these are atmospheric effects which get induced into the satellite data. So one example I'm showing you here is the haze effect. The haze, you can see this is an image without haze and this is an image with haze. Now in remote sensing you must have been told that lower wavelengths are scattered more, higher wavelengths are have less scattering. And if you see here, suppose there is an object having a DN value 20. Now due to the scattering in the atmosphere, suppose another value 20 gets added to it. So that means the DN value is now 40. There is another object which is having DN value of 40. Right? And when the haze gets added, haze has a value of let's say 20. So this value becomes 60. So you see that in the first case, when the image is without haze, the ratio between these two objects, one having value 20, another having value 40, is 2x, right? That means twice the contrast is there. That means there is a dark object, there is a bright object. But when you see this in the hazy atmosphere, the value is 60 and 40. So the contrast is reduced 1.5 times the optimum contrast. So haze has to be removed. So here also you can see the effect of the haze. You must have observed this is also when you go to a hill station and you want to cover the lower area and your image picture comes blue. Though you see very good, but the image comes as blue because those lights which are being captured by the lens, it gets scattered and the light is scattered and the recording is with haze. So how to remove it? The haze has to be corrected. Now haze has to be corrected as we mentioned, we assume that the infrared band is not at all affected by the haze. It is the lower bands, it is the visual bands which are affected by the. So in those areas there are two ways. One is histogram minimum method. That means you take the minimum value in the visible band. You take the minimum value in the visible band, assume it having it is due to the haze, and subtract this value from all the values of that particular band. So that means your histogram shifts to 0. So that means you have removed haze. This is histogram minimum method. The other method is dark object subtraction. That means in your image you identify objects which do not reflect any values, like for example clear water, shadows, right? So in infrared band those will have 0 reflectance, and any value for that deep water or for that shadow in the shorter wavelength interval bands are assumed to be due to haze. So take that value, subtract it from the DN values of the particular band. So this is called as dark object subtract. Very simple method, and you get your clear images like here. Right? Okay, now the next type of correction is your sun angle correction. Now everybody knows that the position of the sun, it changes, that means in relation to the earth, it changes depending upon the time of the day and day of the year. That means the sun elevation angle, how much is the sun above the horizon, it is the time and the location dependent, like here for example it is shown here what will be the solar elevation angle or the sun elevation angle in winter and what is the solar elevation angle in summer, where it is large, where it is small. So this is time and location dependent. Now irradiance means the energy coming from the sun. So irradiance varies with these changes, seasonal changes in sun elevation angle and the distance between the earth and the sun. You must be knowing that distance between the earth and earth changes every day according to that Julian day. You can calculate it. So the sun elevation correction, the sun angle or sun elevation correction needs to be done to remove this seasonal position of the sun relative to the earth. That means if you have data which is acquired under different sun angles, which is acquired under different solar illumination angles, you need it to normalize it to a constant solar angle, as if sun is at particular position, generally taken overhead. That means that just above our this thing, that means at zenith. So in northern hemisphere we know that the answer I also have written here, the solar elevation angle is smaller in winter and it is larger in the summers. Now if you want to calculate the solar zenith angle, that means the position of the sun overhead, you can calculate it by your the solar elevation angle. You know that this total is 90 degree. So if you want to know the position of the sun, so then you have to subtract it from 90 to get the solar zenith angle, right? And you do this correction for if you are taking 2-3 images having different sun angles. Like for example, I am showing you this picture here. This image is captured with a different sun angle, and this image is captured with a different sun angle. If I want to mosaic them, the mosaic will not look good. So I have to bring them, I have to normalize them to same solar elevation angle. So I have to divide this DN values of this image by the sine of its solar elevation angle, and I have to divide this by the sine of its solar elevation angle. That means removing the sun elevation effect, and then when you mosaic it, you get a corrected mosaic without the effect of sun angle. So image data is normalized. So by calculating pixel values, assuming sun was at zenith on the day of the sensing. So we can apply this formula to remove the effect of the sun elevation. Now coming to geometric errors and correction. So we have seen now radiometric errors and their correction. Radiometry, I repeat, it is the DN value which gets distorted. The DN value which gets distorted is the radiometric error. Geometric error, the name also it indicates if the position of the pixel, is distorted, it is a geometric error and we need to correct it. So we need to correct it also because we want a map projection. We want a scale to be associated with our remotely sensed image. So this is also done in the process called as geometric correction. Now I told you this DN value, placing the DN value in its appropriate location, I can say, right? That is geometric correction. Now this DN value is either reflected or emitted or backscattered value based upon the remote sensing that you are doing. It has to be put in its appropriate location so that you can overlay it with maps, you can overlay it with other images, right? So like for example, the one type of geometric error which is there on the in the imageries is due to the earth rotation. You know that the sun synchronous satellites, you can see here, they are capturing the data in a fixed orbit. They are capturing the data in the fixed orbit, and after they have taken one pass from descending pass, right, north to south, the earth rotates underneath. The earth rotates underneath. While the satellite is moving from north to south, earth has rotated on its axis from west to east, making one complete revolution, we know, every 24 hours. So what happens, what does this does? It skews the geometry of the image. It skews. We are expecting a rectangular image, and you can see here the image is actually skewed. It is because of the earth rotation. So you can see in this picture the dashed line indicates the shape of the distorted image, and actual image is this. The image that has been captured is in the solid line. So each line is offsetted to the west, you know. So this is the earth rotation effect on the imagery. So my DN value, it's not in the correct position. I'm giving this square. I'm given this square where DN value is not in its correct position. So this effect has to be removed. So what are the differences between the geometry of an image and if I want to overlay it over the map? There are 4 differences in geometry. That is your shift, scale, rotation and skew. That means here when you see that I have overlaid my image over the topo sheet, did it fit exactly when I purchased it? No. It had to be overlaid over the imagery by either compressing the image or expanding it depending upon the resolution of the sensor and depending upon the scale of the map. Image has to be either compressed or expanded. This is called as differential scaling. Now the geometry of the image, the origin of the image and origin of the map, they do not coincide. So image has to be translated, it has to be shifted. So this is called as translation. Then next is the rotation of the image to fit over the appropriate area. And shear or skew is shifting of the each line to the west due to the earth rotation. So these are four differences in geometry between an image and a topo sheet. So if I want to overlay my image over a topo sheet, or if I want to overlay my image over other image, I have to remove these four differences in geometry. And how that is done? That is done through a process called as rectification. It is done by a process called as rectification. So rectification, in simple words, I can say it's a process by which geometry of an image is made planimetric. That means it's a process of geometrically correcting an image so that I can overlay it over another image. I can overlay it over a map. Why I need to do it? Whenever I want to use my image as image map, right, I need to do this process. Why do I use a map? I use a map to make accurate area, distance and direction measurements. So whenever I want to make it from imagery, I need to do this rectification. It is done by transforming the data in one grid system to another. One grid system is image grid. Another grid system is my reference, that is map grid. Right? And there are two steps involved. The two steps are geometric transformation, coefficient computation, and the second step is intensity interpolation or resampling. So this animation is showing that my image, raw image, and the reference map, I identify certain pixels for which I know the ground coordinates and I know the image coordinates. I establish a mathematical link between them. I fit some mathematical equations, polynomial equations between them using least square technique. That means I transform my grid. Once the grid is transformed, I fill it with dn value. Once the grid is transformed, I fill in it dn values, and this step is called as intensity interpolation. So pixel value is taken from input image and put it in its appropriate location in the output image. So this is an overview, right? Now how this is done, as I mentioned in the first slide, the first is identifying pixels in both the images. Source image, reference image. Image, map, right? Or image 1, image 2. So those pixels or those points are called as ground control points if you are associating a map coordinate with it. So ground control point is a location on the earth which can be very well identified and located on both the sets. That means imagery as well as on earth. So that means a GCP, we popularly call it. It has two coordinates. One is source coordinates or image coordinates. Image coordinates, you know, they are in rows and columns, that is ing. And the other set of coordinates is reference coordinates or map coordinates. That means the latitude, longitudes or northing eastings in your any projection, like for example UTM, which is being more popularly. Right? So we need to identify those ground control points. Now, which are the probable pixels for ground control points? Ground control points, if you have a very high resolution imagery, you see the corner of buildings very clearly, you see the road intersections clearly, you see the airport runways, even markings on airport runways are visible. So if you have a high resolution imagery, very well defined geometric features should be taken as a ground control point. But if your imagery is medium to low resolution, such fine man-made or geometric features are not visible. Then you have to take larger features like urban areas, geological features, etc. Where in these cases, in the small and medium or even in the high resolution imagery, we should be careful that we do not use the landmarks which may change. Like if you are taking the corner of a water body, water may have receded or water may have expanded depending upon the season. So accurate ground control point should be marked for accurate rectification. And my ground control point should be well spread over the entire image. They should not be located in a particular area, and I require a certain number of ground control points depending upon the mathematical equation that we are going to use. Now I will not distract, or you can I don't want to demotivate you by showing you complex mathematics. It is very simple, we use simple polynomials like first order polynomial in two variables, right? We can use that to register one image to another. So we use polynomial equations to remove the distortions which I mentioned earlier. We can use the simple first order polynomial in two variables, x and y, calculating the ground coordinates, right? So we can calculate the forward equations as well as the backward equations. This I call forward equations. That means from the image we are trying to predict the map coordinates, and vice versa would be from the map I'm trying to predict the image coordinates, right? So this first order coefficient is sufficient to do your transformation. It is sufficient to make all the four changes in geometry which I mentioned here: scale, shift, translation, rotation, etc. And for each ground control point, we calculate the root mean square error. We calculate the root mean square error. That means when I'm computing the first order transformation, for each ground control point, we are computing what is its computed value and the reference value we know. So the difference between the computed and the reference value, it is called as root mean square error. It is the distance between the reference value and the computed value here, as you can see. So this is the Euclidean distance. Everybody knows the Euclidean distance formula, right? Between 2 points, this is the distance. Ideally, this distance should be 0. Ideally, the distance should be 0. Your RMS error would be 0. But in reality, it is not possible to get a 0 error. So we have to accept a certain number of RMS error. Acceptable RMS error, it can be thought of as a window around a source coordinate in which even if you have a computed value, if it lies, it is considered correct. So acceptable RMS error, it actually depends upon the end use of data, the type of data that we are using, the accuracy and the number of ground control points that we have. So normally the convention that is adopted is, for each ground control point, the RMS error should be less than half a pixel. That means 0.5. And average of them, or a total RMS of less than 1 pixel, is accepted. So here it is showing you an example that if for one particular image I had taken 4 ground control points, these were the row and column, and these were the northing and easting. So for each ground control point, the RMS error was computed, and both set of equations can be computed with these 4 ground control points. That means the image to ground coordinates and ground to image coordinates. Both sets of images or both sets of computation can be done from this ground control points. First order polynomial, if I use, I require only 4 ground control points. If I use a second order polynomial, I need 7. Actual requirement is for first order 3, but fourth one I should choose for computing the RMS error. Similarly, for second order, we need a minimum of 6 ground control points. We choose a 7th one so that RMS can be computed. So once the grid is transformed, the RMS error is acceptable, we assign the DN values to the new grid. That means after the first step, we have transformed the grid. Right? And then we take a value from the original image and put it into the output. Now this can be done through 3 methods called as nearest neighbor, bilinear and cubic convolution. Remember, we are taking a value from the original image and putting it in the output. So in fact, we are now using the backward equation. That means for each pixel in the output image, we are looking back towards the image, input image, and taking the DN value and putting it in the output image. So the nearest neighbor approach for the output pixel, like for example, if I look at this grid, the corrected grid is the solid grid here, and the uncorrected one is the dashed grid here in this particular image. If this pixel needs to be filled with a DN value, the closest to this pixel is this one in the unrectified grid in the original image. So this value is taken and placed here. In other words, that output grid, we look back and find the nearest pixel and place it here. For example, if a value needs to be filled here, and if we look back, it is closest to which of these 4 pixels. That means pixels having value 9, 6, 15 and 18 depends upon its location. Right? So a pixel at this pixel requires a DN value from location 2.7 and 2.6. So 2.4 is rounded up to 2, 2.7 is rounded to 3. So that means location from 2, 3 will be taken and this value will be taken and placed here. So this is nearest neighbor approach, and this is a very simple method. Advantage is you are taking a value from original file and placing it in the output file. Right? Now here a little disadvantage is also there, that some data values, they find their place into the output image, but some data values are lost. That is, they do not go into the output image. But output image, all pixels have a value. So that means there is a stair-stepped effect. There is some rough or blocky appearance in the image. But the advantage is it's simple, it's easy to compute and fastest one. The second method is that we can find a weighted average of 4 nearest pixels. In the previous method, we have taken this rounding up. Rounding up, that means take the nearest pixel. In the bilinear interpolation, we take a weighted average of these 4 pixels and then compute a new value depending upon its distance from all these 4 pixels and place the new value. Advantage, in the previous one, nearest neighbor image was blocky. So that effect goes, because here you are doing is averaging. You are doing weighted averaging, so image will be smoother. Disadvantage, it's a computed value, it's not an original data, right? So it's not an original data, so it's a computed value. And it will take little more time than the previous method and the nearest neighbor. Then there is also a third method called as cubic convolution. Cubic convolution is the weighted average of 16 nearest pixels. It's a weighted average of 16 nearest pixels. Advantages and disadvantages are similar to your bilinear interpolation. That is, advantages, this image will be much more smoother than your bilinear interpolation also, because it is averaging 16 pixels. Disadvantage, again, it is a computed value, it's not a original file value, and it will take even more computation time than your nearest neighbor and a bilinear interpolation. So if I compare, right, you can see now that how do we do it in the software? In software, we identify the pixels in the image and the topo sheet. We identify a minimum of 4 ground control points if I am using the first order polynomial. Then we calculate the forward and the backward equations, and on a click of the software, click in the software for resampling, it gives me an actified image where it has both row column, latitude, longitudes in a certain northing easting. So this is removing all kind of geometric errors. By rectifying an image, we are orienting it to the north-south oriented map, as you can see here. So that means you are removing all kind of errors. So this is rectification. And the good news is that you don't need to do this step now. Most of the satellite images now, they are coming with geographic coordinates associated. They are coming in a format, in a GeoTIFF format or a CF, where ground coordinates are associated with the imagery. So this step can be avoided if you are confident of the of the accuracy of transformation, right? But in case if you want a very, very high accuracy, you can go to the ground, collect your own ground control points, and improve the coordinates of the rectified image. So this is all about the image rectification, removal of all kind of errors. So this is in nutshell I have covered. As if I go to my first slide, we have covered, that is what is, we have started with what is an image, what is a digital image, what is image processing. Then we have defined that there are three major functionalities of image processing, that is pre-processing, enhancement, and information extraction. Pre-processing is removal of radiometric and geometric corrections, which I have covered in this session. The next session will be on image enhancement, and then further the next session will be on image classification, and the last session will be on change detection and accuracy assessment. From the digital image processing series of lectures. Of course, there will be more lectures after that, but for digital image processing, these 4 sessions are planned, and we have finished the first session today. So now we can break for query session. You can post your queries, questions, and I will try to take as many questions as possible in this time frame before we stop.